What would you do if you were left in the dark? Without power, without lights, without heat? That's exactly what many Americans were facing last month when there was a huge storm that hit the South, and Texas hit the worst. Now, after all was said and done, they said that over 86 people were found dead, and more than 4 million people were without power, some for up to 7 days. Now, this shows how important electricity is in our society and how our survival truly depends on it. This is why today I'm going to be discussing why power in America is so important and why we all have a stake in it. First, we're going to talk about electricity's significance in society. Then we're going to be discussing the power sources of the past. This is coal, natural gas, nuclear power, some of the oldest and most polluting of our power sources. Then we're going to talk about renewable energy, the hydroelectric, wind, solar, the future of energy production. After that, we're going to move on to the current cost. My only pun. Financial and environmental stress from the electricity, and then also we're going to move on to the aspect of why power in America is so important and why it truly affects every single person living in this country. So first of all, we're going to go over electricity's significance in society. Now, we all depend on technology, but technology is nothing without electricity. Your phone cannot do anything without holding a charge. Hospitals depend on electricity to save lives, and we depend on it every day as students using the internet. Now, lighting and heating is something that's invariably connected to, but there is something that is much more important that we don't think about. Water requires power. This is something I didn't even realize until I read about Texas and how they had to boil their water within 2 days when they ran out of clean water. This shows that there is an insane amount of issues with our infrastructure right now, that in 2021 people were dying from freezing and from gross water. This shows that we need to move forward, power America with something different. This is why we must use new kinds of electricity, but some of the classic ways of making electricity are with the turbine engine. Now, the turbine engine uses a rotor to move a turbine and thus create power. Now, the turbine can be moved with water, with wind, or with combustion and with steam. Now, with that, this must be moved, and some of the oldest ways to move that turbine have been with coal. Now, coal is the oldest and I think the dirtiest of them all, which polluting the most and providing the most issues with carcinogens. Now, with that, the decline of coal has been very apparent, and it is still 1/5 of our energy dependence today. We are still very dependent on coal, and that is continuing to decline, but should be declining quicker, in my opinion. And then, one thing that is an issue with coal is it must be mined and then transported compared to any other resource that could just be used. The natural gas must be mined as well, but the issue with natural gas is that it must be fracked. Now, fracking is a mining process that they shoot water into the ground at high speed to bring out all the natural resources, damaging everything involved. The process, once they get it out, includes separation, chemical removal, dehydration, and recovery, all before it can be used. Now, this is a very common type of energy. It accounts for 40% of U.S. energy, the widest portion and the most common. In fact, we have a plant right here by us. In Linden, but over by Utah Lake where I work, there's the Lakeside Power Station. It provides electricity for 1.6 million people. You've probably seen the plumes of smoke over by I-15. That's not smoke at all, it's steam from the natural gas. Now, nuclear is one of, I think, the scariest power sources. It harnesses the power from nuclear fission to produce electricity. And there's 96 nuclear reactors and 58 power plants in the US today. That's 20% of electricity from nuclear power. I was astounded. I thought it was something from the past. It is definitely still moving forward with new ones being built even now. So that's something to consider. Then moving forward, we need to find something that empowers us while we power ourselves. That is alternative energy and renewable energy. Alternative energy is a future idea whose time is past. Renewable energy is a future idea whose time has come. Some of the power sources of the future include hydroelectric, which is actually a classic source with the water wheel used to produce electricity. It uses water to spin the turbines, and it accounts for only 7% of US energy, while 70% in other countries. So it is a highly utilized across the world. Now, in the US, there's 80,000 dams. Only 2,400 of them have these facilities. We are definitely in need of hydroelectric power, and the industry is available. Wind is another way of harvesting airborne energy. Now, wind uses that in the kinetic energy in the air to spin the turbines and producing no carbon footprint. The growing industry has been growing rapidly, and since 2010 it's gone from less than 1% to 7% of energy generation today. That's amazing. My personal favorite is solar. Energy from the sun, the life giver of life. The photovoltaic cells, they convert sunlight into electrical energy with no emission. They are underutilized. They only produce 1.6, under 2% of all electricity today. There is huge growth in solar, and my personal future as well. Solar is the future of America. The future is very bright with solar power indeed. The current cost of America's energy crisis is, the financial cost is $350 billion. Now, with that is the price of coal and gas have stayed stagnant. That is why it is so low. It is growing because of wind and solar. They've realized that coal is actually worse for us, with it being 6% of the GDP but 10% of our health problems. So we've seen a huge increase in solar and wind, and they actually say that by 2025, Forbes predicts that renewable energy will be a $1 trillion industry. As well as the environmental costs, fossil fuels are completely damaging in their usage. Mining taints natural water and resources and destroys the homes of animals. The World Health Organization has actually labeled biomass as a major global health issue. Now that is a problem for everyone involved, and they have finally seen that and are recognizing that. They see that coal is the deadliest, killing 15,000 Americans every year. Then nuclear waste is also dangerous, with its byproducts not being able to be disposed of. They are currently sitting underneath the factories, just seeping into the environment. The only issue that we have with wind turbines really is that they kill birds, and I think if we paint them a different color, that would definitely help. And then this is why powering America is everyone's business. We all have a stake in this, and we all really need to move forward in the right direction. President Barack Obama said the path towards sustainable energy sources will be sometimes long and sometimes difficult, but America cannot resist this transition. We must lead it. We all take a piece of the pie. We just need to make sure that everyone's got enough. This piece of the pie right here is the renewable energy piece. This is way too small. It has potential to grow exponentially and to be a $1 trillion industry. There is a definite future, and we must move forward into it. A future where no one gets left in the dark. Thank you so much.